Cet homme a violé et tué une fillette de 3 ans et meurt seulement 1 mois après le début de sa peine de prison. Robert Fisher avait été condamné à 40 ans de prison pour le viol et le meurtre de la petite Josephina Cunningham. Fisher avait forcé l'enfant à consommer des somnifères, l'a agressé et a ensuite tenté de dissimuler ce qu'il avait fait. En réalité, il s'était lié d'amitié avec la mère de l'enfant. Un jour, alors que la maman était absente, la fillette lui avait été confiée. Et c'est là qu'il a commis l'acte inhumain. Lors de la condamnation, la procureure Antonia Edwards a déclaré que Fisher avait utilisé des lingettes, Clorox pour essayer de cacher ses crimes, frottant le visage de l'enfant si fort qu'il en avait arraché la pigmentation. Il avait utilisé ces lingettes sur tout son corps, allant même jusqu'à les introduire à l'intérieur de celui-ci. Il avait été condamné à 20 ans de prison après avoir accepté un accord de plaidoyer, proposé uniquement pour que la famille n'ait pas à assister à un procès et à entendre les détails horribles de son crime. Récemment, il a été retrouvé mort en prison. L'administration pénitentiaire a refusé de révéler la cause du décès, qui devrait être déterminée par les médecins légistes. Dites-moi ce que vous en pensez dans les commentaires. Selon vous, que s'est-il passé? Était-ce volontaire ou les autres détenus s'en sont-ils chargés?
Story!
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast. I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words.
This 4-year-old little girl was horrifically murdered by her mom's 16-year-old boyfriend. This was 4-year-old Octavia Aquino. She lived in an apartment in Evansville, Indiana with her 23-year-old mother, Destiny Rhodes. But Destiny was dating and having over a 16-year-old boy. His name is Christian Gonzalez. Now sadly on June 14th of 2024, a 911 call was made from the apartment saying that Octavia was unresponsive. She was taken to a hospital and had very little brain activity, and 2 days later on June 16th she passed away. And soon after, both her mother Destiny and the boyfriend Christian were charged. Destiny was charged with neglect resulting in the death of a child, and Christian was charged with murder. And just a few hours ago, Octavia's autopsy was released, and we now know that she was killed from blunt force trauma to the head and to the neck. It's also been revealed that Destiny Rhodes shared her apartment with 2 other adults, and allegedly one of them said that the night before Octavia was killed that they saw a bite mark on her. It was also recently decided that 16-year-old Christian Gonzalez is going to be tried as an adult. He was also proven to be a missing juvenile from Fort Wayne, Indiana. This 4-year-old little girl was horrifically murdered by her mom's 16-year-old boyfriend. This was 4-year-old Octavia Aquino. She lived in an apartment in Evansville, Indiana with her 23-year-old mother, Destiny Rhodes. But Destiny was dating and having over a 16-year-old boy. His name is Christian Gonzalez. Now sadly on June 14th of 2024, a 911 call was made from the apartment saying that Octavia was unresponsive. She was taken to a hospital and had very little brain activity, and 2 days later on June 16th she passed away. And soon after, both her mother Destiny and the boyfriend Christian were charged. Destiny was charged with neglect resulting in the death of a child, and Christian was charged with murder. And just a few hours ago, Octavia's autopsy was released, and we now know that she was killed from blunt force trauma to the head and to the neck. It's also been revealed that Destiny Rhodes shared her apartment with 2 other adults, and allegedly one of them said that the night before Octavia was killed that they saw a bite mark on her. It was also recently decided that 16-year-old Christian Gonzalez is going to be tried as an adult. He was also proven to be a missing juvenile from Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Photos, but it might be in a... Let me just go through them all. This one?
That one. Zoom in if we can zoom in.
All right, let me make it full screen.
All right, yeah, you see in the background there, folks, if we can get a closer picture, you see what appears to be some rivulets and some blood right to the right. Now, this is, again, I believe this is the kitchen, and that could be a cabinet. Can you all see that?
Yeah, initially I thought it was a door frame, but I'm not sure.
I don't read. There's no door unless there's a closet. There's no door
Yeah.
to get into the kitchen. It's a step down, and then you make a right turn.
So Leroy sends in a super chat and says cartel hit. Nobody knows. There's people talking about that, but I would say it's not probable.
Can you zoom in a little further?
If I had my laptop,
Can you right click? Can you right click and then
no.
All right. Yeah, because on other photos that I saw, up in that upper right hand corner of the frame, you see what looks like a contact transfer possibly, and then you see these rivulets coming down.
Yeah.
And see, now I was looking, I was a little bit confused, and I'm trying to compare and contrast interior photos of the kitchen and another series of photos through the sliding glass door into the kitchen to see if that in fact is in the kitchen, because initially I was, seeing that white cloth material, I thought it might be bedding and that might be the headboard of a bed, but I do believe it was the kitchen because I found plenty of photos of crime scene detectives on the outside of the house processing this window.
Josh just taught me.
Oh, there you go.
Control.
There you go. All right. Can everybody see all of that? Can you see what looks like rivulets of blood flowing down on there?
Yeah, you can see small, short ones here.
Yeah, and you go above it. It starts on top of it.
Yeah, I see it here.
Yeah, and then it's flowing down, especially on the right side, right there. Yeah,
that goes all the way down.
You think that might be a sheet? Might be a sheet.
Yeah, there's evidence tape over the window.
Right. Could that be a sheet or some kind of
looks like a robe?
Robe or some covering a victim? Don't know what's going on there.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Yeah, this is now I can go back.
So check this crazy ass loophole I just went through. I nutted in the condom. Put water in the condom. Okay? Then you want to take it a step further, put the condom over a light. At that point, you're going to see a homemade lava lamp. Not cabin though.
The time an entire town got away with murder. In the small town of Skidmore, Missouri, with a population of a little over 400 people, one of its residents would be killed in the middle of the street in broad daylight with over 60 witnesses to the murder. But it would still go unsolved to this day. Ken Rex McElroy was born to a family of poor farmers. He dropped out of school in the 8th grade and was said to have never learned how to read. And after dropping out of school, he made a name for himself as the town bully and kind of the worst person ever. Ken started his life of crime with petty thievery and then escalated to extreme violence, essaying children, and attempted murder. Ken was said to have connections with the mob and had a really good mob lawyer, which was really good for Ken because he was arrested for multiple felonies every single year, but he would never see a day behind bars, either with the help of his really good fancy lawyer or by threatening the lives of witnesses so they wouldn't testify against him. And Ken was also apparently quite charming and somewhat good with women, but he did not like women. He liked teenage girls around 13 years old. Ken met his second wife when she was 15 years old and he was 24 years old. During an argument, Ken accidentally shot her in the chin and then was able to threaten her to drop the charges against him and marry him after that. And the two would have 4 children. Ken then began cheating on his 15-year-old bride with a 14-year-old girl and got her pregnant 3 times before she turned 17. Ken would actually have over a dozen children with multiple different women. And then when Ken was 37 years old, he met his third wife when she was only 12 years old, a girl named Trina McLeod. And when Trina was 14 years old, Ken got her pregnant for the first time, and shortly after giving birth, Trina attempted to escape Ken's abuse by taking her baby and running away to her parents' house. So what does Ken do? Ken goes to her parents' house, kills their dog, and then burns their house to the ground. When Ken was arrested, he was able to convince Trina's parents into not only dropping the charges against him, but to allow their 15-year-old daughter to marry the now 42-year-old Ken Rex McElroy. Like I said, the town that Ken lived in was a population of around 400 people, and pretty much everyone was a victim of Ken's at some point, one way or another, whether that was Ken threatening their lives, assaulting them, or robbing them. There was an instance where one day Ken was trespassing on the land of a local farmer. When that farmer tried to get Ken off of his land, Ken shot the farmer in the stomach and still never saw a day in jail. This man was terrorizing the small town, and everyone was terrified of him, including the police. The local people felt abandoned by the police, and at the time it seemed like there was nothing they could do to stop Ken. That was, of course, until April 25th, 1980. That day, Ken's 8-year-old daughter was accused of stealing candy from the local general store. The local general store was owned by a 70-year-old man named Bo Bowenkamp and his wife. When Ken heard of this incident, he actually began to not only threaten, but stalk the elderly couple. And he continued to stalk and threaten the couple until July of that year, when Ken drove to the store and shot the 70-year-old Bo Bowenkamp in the neck at close range. Luckily, Bo Bowenkamp survived, and for the first time in Ken Rex McElroy's life, he was found guilty of a crime, but he was not convicted of attempted murder. He was convicted of the lesser crime of second-degree assault and was sentenced to only 2 years in prison, but was quickly released on bail attempting his appeal. And by the next day, Ken was back in the local bar with a firearm threatening the life of Bo Bowenkamp, and the town of Skidmore, Missouri had finally had enough. On the morning of July 10th, 1981, Ken was back at his local bar, and at the exact same time down the street, a town meeting was being held about what the heck are we gonna do about Ken. About 60 people were in attendance, including the town's mayor and sheriff. No one except those that were in the meeting know exactly what was said, but what we do know is the meeting ended with a group of 60 people heading towards their local bar in an almost mob-like fashion. At that exact same time, Ken was leaving the bar, heading towards his truck with a 6-pack of beer. And then there, on the main street of Skidmore, Missouri, in broad daylight with at least 60 people crowding around, Ken Rex McElroy was shot dead. No one came to his aid or called an ambulance. And despite there being at least 60 witnesses to the murder, when questioned by police, no one in the town saw anything. No one saw who shot Ken. No one in the town ever said anything to this day. The FBI even got involved, but no one was ever arrested for the murder of Ken. And to this day, the murder of Ken Rex McElroy is still unsolved. This is such an interesting and bizarre case of vigilante justice. I'm really interested to get your guys' take on this case, and if you think murder is ever justified. Leave me all your thoughts in the comments, and while you're there, please let me know what case you want to see me cover next. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with another video.
Not every housemate comes to help. Some enter a family with a smile, but behind that smile is a mission of destruction. And sometimes the very gift you welcome into your home is the doorway through which the devil walks in. They thought they were hiring a helper. Instead, they welcomed their greatest enemy into their own home. And it all started with a single decision to employ a stranger they knew nothing about. The Olawale family had been struggling to cope after the sudden death of Grandma, who used to live with them. She had been the one helping with the children, keeping the home in order, and making life easier for Mrs. Olawale, who was a banker with long hours. Now everything was falling apart. The children were messy, the house was untidy, and her husband grew impatient. So when Mrs. Olawale spotted a young girl named Busy at the market one Saturday morning, carrying loads on her head and begging traders for small jobs, she felt a tug of sympathy. "Do you need work?" she asked. "Yes, ma," the girl answered with downcast eyes. "Anything. I can wash, cook, sweep." Without asking too many questions, Mrs. Olawale decided to bring Busy home. It seemed like fate the solution to her problems. At first, Busy was everything they wanted. She was efficient, quick to learn, and eager to please. The children adored her. Mr. Olawale even praised his wife for her good heart in picking the girl. But little by little, strange things began to happen. The youngest child, Dara, who had been bubbly and playful, became withdrawn and fearful. She said Busy told her stories at night, stories about ghosts that lived in the ceiling and spirits that ate children's toes. Whenever Busy washed clothes, items went missing: underwear, handkerchiefs, even Dara's school socks. And the family's once peaceful home grew heavy with tension. The parents argued more. The children cried easily. What no one noticed was that Busy kept a small leather pouch under her pillow. She never let it out of her sight. And every night, when the house was dark and silent, Busy would carefully remove a small charm from the pouch, place it in her hands, and begin to chant softly, "Let there be confusion, confusion, confusion." By morning, the once loving family would wake up and start having unnecessary quarrels over little things, arguments that made no sense, disagreements that grew into bitterness. When she was done, she would quietly return the charm to the pouch, lay down, and sleep as though nothing had happened. The following week, Mr. Olawale's car broke down mysteriously in the middle of the highway. The engine simply refused to start, even though he had serviced it just the previous month. Mechanics tried their best, but nothing worked until he spent nearly 500,000 naira on repairs. The incident left him bitter and suspicious. The very next day, Mrs. Olawale opened her office drawer to retrieve an envelope of cash she had carefully set aside for supplies. To her horror, the money had vanished, every last note. She was sure she had locked the drawer. She sat at her desk, trembling. At home, she accused her husband of carelessness, while he fired back, blaming her disorganization. The once loving couple, who used to laugh and share everything, now threw harsh words at each other almost daily. Busy, however, remained calm and unusually helpful. Whenever quarrels arose, she stood silently, sometimes smirking when no one was watching. Unbeknownst to the family, she had started a new routine. Whenever she cooked stew or soup, she would squat quietly by the pot, urinate inside it, stir gently, and cover it back. At mealtime, she served the food with a smile. The family ate heartily, never suspecting anything. Hours later, the children would begin vomiting, clutching their stomachs, while Mr. and Mrs. Olawale ran to the toilet with severe purging. And who came rushing with water, wipes, and feigned concern? Busy. She pretended to be the most caring helper, patting backs, cleaning vomit, fetching hot water, yet she was the hidden cause of their suffering. Sickness, quarrels, and financial losses began to eat deep into the Olawale's home. Nights that once held peace now throbbed with tension. Arguments turned into silence. Silence turned into distance. Eventually, Mr. and Mrs. Olawale began sleeping in different rooms, each blaming the other for their problems. And that was when Busy struck. Mr. Olawale, already frustrated and lonely, began to notice the way Busy looked at him. She lingered when serving his food, smiling softly, her eyes holding his longer than necessary. Sometimes, when she bent to clear the table, her wrapper loosened just slightly, revealing what no maid should dare to show her master. At first he brushed it aside, but temptation grew stronger. Unknown to him, Busy had been charming his meals with her rituals, whispering over his plate before serving, "Let his wise be blind to his wife. Let his heart burn for me."
yeah, one more thing. If y'all see me on Love Island, mind your fucking business, bitch. I'm trying to find love, bitch. Y'all had y'all motherfucking chance.
Guys, I want to tell you guys a story of my experience with from what I think was a cannibal when I was 15 years old. So I met this guy. He lived in my city. And by the way, he's famous. Like, he has 2 million followers, and he hasn't posted in a really long time. And when I go to his page, people are like, oh, where are you? Like, he's doing a mental health break. No, babe. No. If you look his name up on the internet, it says blank, blank allegations. I think he has too many victims that have posted stuff. And I think he's paying people off, because when you click on those search recommendations, it's just a bunch of nothing. It takes you to his TikTok, and DMCAs are a thing. So and I understand DMCAs. You can pretty much get anything you want taken down if you pay somebody. So basically, I met this guy. The first time we ever hung out, he was like, you're not wearing that, go inside, and changed my outfit. And before you think, oh, he was dressing you a little bit more modest, no, this guy literally picks out like the skimpiest outfit ever. He turns my crop top into a bra and my jeans into a skirt, which I didn't really care. I was, at the time, you guys, living with my sisters in an apartment, and my mom and her boyfriend lived 2 hours away, and we were all just attending the high school down the street. So I didn't really have much, and he was buying me groceries that day, so I was like, period, a man I can use. And that sounds really horrible, but I was in like fight or flight my whole growing up. So the first time I ever hung out with him, it really wasn't that bad. All he did, though, that was like red flaggish, was like he brought up an ex. He was like, oh, like, I hurt my ex so bad, like, and I'm just thinking, like, oh, like, maybe he, like, cheated on her, like, you know, like, and so I was rebounding with this guy. I just got my heart broken, so I was like, oh, like, what happened, you know, like, what's the problem, why, and he was like, oh, like, I hurt her, and now, like, I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, oh, by hurt, did he mean, like, try to eat her, like, okay, so he already was like verbally abusive on like day 2 of us hanging out. I was in this man's car, and I was VAPING, and he snatched out my hands, and he was like, pointed at a homeless guy, and he was like, do you want to be fucking homeless? Like, getting in my face, yelling at me, calling me like a low life, basically. And I'm just like crying, begging him to stop. Like, this man's in my face screaming at me, and I'm like, please stop. Like, okay, like, and he's like, you're sleeping at my house tonight, and I'm taking these, and you're going 24 hours without them if you want them back. So he like has my stuff. So I stay the night at his house that night, and I throw up of anxiety, and I get my stuff back in the morning. And I should have left, but I was 15 at this time, and I didn't have like any self-respect at all. And evil enough, this is like the best influence I have in my life at the time. He doesn't want me doing bad stuff, like, okay, so one day, another time I stayed the night at his house, he was like, what are your grades? Let me see your grades. And I'm like, oh my god. I show him my grades, and he's just like, you know, like angry once again, mad, like, you're sorting this out right now. So he brings me over to his desk, and he's like, sit on my lap, and he forces me to write an email to every single teacher that I had a bad grade in their class, and explain myself, and like basically ask for extra credit and chances to fix my grades. And so he's like forcing me to do this, and he's like, if you can get your grades up, I will buy you a SIM card. But I will just buy you a SIM card because I need to be able to get a hold of you. So, free SIM card? Question mark. Obviously, it's very questionable, very weird. And so one night I come over to his house, And that night, he had just bought a ring light, and I helped him set it up. And he's like, let's use this ring light, like, let's do a photo shoot. I have, like, a great idea in mind. So I'm like, okay, like, I'm down for photo shoots, because he was pretty TikTok famous. Like, I think at the time he had, like, 800K on TikTok. This was in 2020. And, so we would do, like, photo shoots, because I had, like, 15K on TikTok at the time. So we would do, like, photo shoots and things like that. So he's like, okay, so take your clothes off and lay on the bed like this. So, like, helps me get situated in a position. He's like setting his phone. He's like, I will be right back. And he comes back with a knife and a fork and records everything. And then he's like, with the photos of it, he sends it to my phone and, like, takes my phone and posts it to my private Instagram so that my, like, ex, who wasn't my ex, would see it. And yeah, he made me post it. A very inappropriate, violent photo. And I remember thinking to myself, like, I'm never hanging out with this man again. Like, this is so odd. I want to go home. So he takes me home, and as I'm shutting my apartment door, he's like, can I come in? Like, and I'm, yes, you can come in. Like, I have to go to bed soon. I'm tired, you know? I just wanted to be able to hit my stuff without him getting angry at me. So I'm like, oh, please hurry. And he comes to my house, and he's like, sit on my lap, and he's like talking to me. And he's like, you know, like, do you know who my idol is? And I'm like, who's your idol? And he says, Ted Bundy. And I'm like, oh, that makes a lot of sense after the last ordeal. So anyways, I cut him off. I don't say anything. I simply ghost him. And I'm, like, avoiding this problem. I ghost him. So after a couple of days of ghosting him, he's like spamming me, nonstop texting, like, where are you? Answer me. And I'm just avoiding him, staying at my neighbor's house at the time, because I had, like, a neighbor next door who also didn't have parents, who was my age. And he was, like, my best friend at that time. I'm staying at his house, and I come home to my apartment just to grab some stuff, to grab some face wash, my toothbrush and stuff, because I was kind of living with my friend at this time. And I didn't have a key to this apartment. None of us had a key to this apartment, and he knew that. My mom, for some reason, like, out of punishment, like, took the apartment keys so that we couldn't lock the door anymore. I don't know. I don't know what it was about. I think it was so nobody would lock the door. And so he knew that my door didn't lock. And I come home one day, and I go in my elevator on the way to the apartment room, and I, like, smell the air, and I'm like, it really smells like this guy. Like, it smells like he was in here. And I'm walking down the hall to my apartment, and I'm like, what? It actually smells like he's here. I open my apartment door, and I go inside, and is he in here? And I go into my bedroom, and there's an outfit laid out on my bed. So yeah, anyways, that was a whole ordeal. I ended up running away, not because of him. And by the way, my sister to this day is always like, how, dude, he knew he didn't have a fucking key. Like, I can't believe you put us in date. Like, my sister gets mad about it. Like, this guy was so creepy. So even my friend too, my home girl that I lived with, like, she knew about all this. He was harassing me in my TikTok comments, going off when I was living with her. And there was this, like, TikTok of him, like, to this audio where it's like, run, rabbit, run, or something like that. And every time we'd hear it, she would, like, scream, and she was like, we were, like, scared, because we would, like, envision him, because he was, like, this in the fucking video. And oh my gosh, traumatizing. And I didn't really register it until I turned 16. I was like, that's really weird. Oh, and I just want to say, you guys, I was 15 when this all happened, and when I met him, I thought he was 18, but I just looked up his age, and he's 4 years older than me. So.
And the past tense. And we found that to be very interesting too.
There was a minimum of 7 cast-off stain patterns. There was actually 6 cast-off stains, and you add one on for the first swing or for the first strike.
There was some paint that had been used and some shoe polish that had been used to try to cover up those stains, but there was so much blood up there, you would have had to repaint the whole wall or the whole ceiling several times to cover it up.
Local.
This brother and sister are the youngest children to be convicted for first-degree murder in the United States. The story of Catherine and Curtis Jones is very controversial and heartbreaking all around. Catherine is the older sister, and her brother Curtis was born only a year later. Their father was very abusive towards their mother. It was very violent, very terrible. When their mother was pregnant with Catherine, their father's abuse was so bad it actually led to their mother's uterus tearing and Catherine having to be born prematurely. When Catherine and Curtis were only toddlers, their mom left their father, so she was luckily able to flee her abuser, but she had to abandon her 2 children in the process, so she left them with this abusive man. And afterwards, a male relative of their father moved in with them, and this relative began to essay 5-year-old Catherine nearly every day for years. When she tried to tell her father of the abuse, he said he didn't believe her, but her younger brother Curtis told Catherine that he believed her because he was also being abused by this relative. Over the next handful of years, CPS would be called at least 3 times to investigate the accusations that the Jones siblings were being physically abused as well as being essayed, and every single time their father pretty much defended his relative and claimed that his 2 children were liars. Even after the CPS agents uncovered that this unnamed male relative had a history of essaying children, he was a registered essay offender and previously was even accused of essaying his girlfriend's daughter when he was living with her, the father still would defend him, and every single time the CPS investigations were dropped. The system that is meant to protect children has failed Catherine and Curtis time and time again, and their own father and mother have failed them as well. By 1999, 3 adults were living with the Jones siblings, their monster relative, their father, and their father's 29-year-old girlfriend named Sonia Spites, who allegedly also saw the abuse but did nothing. In 1999, Catherine was 13 years old and Curtis was 12 years old, and they've been abused by their relative since they were 4 and 5 years old. They were at their breaking point. Catherine told her younger brother that she wanted to kill all the adults that were hurting them and letting this abuse to go on, as well as, of course, kill their abuser. And for whatever reason, they decided to go after their father's girlfriend first. On January 6, 1999, 13-year-old Catherine and 12-year-old Curtis went and grabbed their father's weapon, while their father's girlfriend Sonia sat and did a puzzle at the kitchen table. They both opened fire on her, and at one point Sonia actually tried to get up and grab the phone for help, but Catherine took it away from her. And once their father's girlfriend was dead, both the children began to panic because now this was real. Catherine tried to clean both their fingerprints off of the weapon, and then she called 911 to report that there was an accident, and then both children fled the home. Catherine and Curtis were caught and arrested early the next morning, and they were arrested on charges of first-degree murder, and they were going to be tried as adults, making them the youngest children to be tried as adults for first-degree murder in the United States. Once they were arrested, both siblings tried to take full responsibility and claimed that the other one had no involvement. They were trying to protect each other. 13-year-old Catherine was even offered a plea deal to testify against her younger brother, but she refused. Ultimately, both Catherine and Curtis were sentenced to 18 years in an adult prison. And then after their release, they would be on probation for the rest of their lives. And they're 12 and 13 years old and going to adult prison. Both of them said that they felt safer in prison than back home with their abuser. Due to Catherine's young age, the adult female prison that she was being sent to was worried about her safety, so they forced Catherine, at 13 years old, to spend the first 3 years of her sentence in solitary confinement, which is seen as like torture to full-grown, fully formed adults. And that's how she spent 13 to 16 years old, completely alone in dark, solitary confinement. And public opinion on the Jones siblings were completely split. There were people in 1999 that saw these children as cold-blooded monsters, and then there were other people that saw them as traumatized children that the system completely failed. And that it was very unfair that these children were being tried and sentenced as adults, having to spend their sentences in adult prison. And there's a lot of people that believe that it possibly would have gone a little bit different if they had been white. In 2016, Catherine was released from prison at age 30. She is now married, she's a mom herself, and she's a huge advocate and voice for victims and for fair sentencing for juvenile offenders. And her younger brother, Curtis, was released the following year, also at age 30, and he is now an ordained minister. So it seems like both of them have been rehabilitated and are trying to live better lives. We've talked about child killers before, and it's always an interesting conversation in the comments about if you think child killers can be rehabilitated. Do you think that juveniles should ever be tried and sentenced as adults, or is it a case-by-case basis? Let me know all your thoughts on this in the comments. Let me know what case you want to see me cover next, and I will see you guys next time.
They've been dispatched. Huh? Did he stab you? Hey, how did you get to her? In the black box? Oh my God, dude.
Police head back to the House of Horrors, this time with more urgency and looking for a body.
Hey, I got the phone. Okay. Hey, did you talk to Detective Smith? He tell you what's going on?
Yes. All right, so I appreciate this. He's a lot of before this.
Yeah.
You know my number. What's up, bro? How y'all doing? Same people.
Yeah. I'm in the overtime now, man.
You gotta come to the back, man, okay?
Yeah, I can do that.
Is that cool?
Yeah.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's on.
Sorry
for my bro. Sorry for my attitude, okay? Okay. Give me 5 seconds.
Meet me at the back door?
All y'all.
All right. Hey, watch your front to see if someone will walk with us first. If that chick's in there, she might be leaving. Doesn't matter, right? It'll be funny if he never comes back and he stole my lighter. Yeah. Joke's on him. I found that lighter. It's all one room.
Huh?
It's all one room.
If there's a shoe on that or something.
He's not good at hiding.
No. Yo!
Jake!
Do they know what? All right.
Where are you at?
Where you at, man?
M35, you can send us same 2 force numbers.
Hello, 15.
All right, we're looking. Hey, how do you get to her? Step up EMS. Are you injured besides that?
I'm paralyzed.
You're paralyzed.
I'm paralyzed. What's your name?
EMS is en route. Are you cold?
I hurt.
You hurt? All right, we want to get you out of there, but I'm afraid to move you. I'm going to let EMS do all that, okay?
I hurt so bad.
What did he do to you?
This
This girl and her boyfriend were being stalked in a way that doesn't even sound real. Not just a few prank texts here and there, we're talking over 350,000 messages. And the person behind it is actually going to blow your mind. So the story starts with this girl named Lauren Licari. She was 13 when she started dating this boy at her school, and his name is Owen McKinney. By the time they hit high school, they were still dating, which is pretty surprising being that they're so young. And so in their small town in Michigan, everyone considered them the golden couple. Everything seemed perfect until one random night in 2020, Lauren gets this message from an unknown number. It just says, Owen is breaking up with you. And she's like, what? Who is this? And then another follows right after saying, it's obvious he doesn't want you anymore. He wants me. At first, Lauren just rolls her eyes. She figures it's just some random classmate trying to stir up some drama and get in the way of her relationship. Except the text messages don't stop. They just get nasty. One's like, you're too ugly for anyone to love. Another one says, Owen's cheating on you. Everyone knows. And then the worst one, you should just end yourself, bitch. The world doesn't need you. It's non-stop text messages day in and day out, just flooding this girl's phone and trying to ruin her life like they've got nothing else better to do. And it's not just mean, it's calculated. They call her a terrible girlfriend, a crappy athlete, a total nobody. It's like they're trying to tear this girl apart piece by piece. Lauren and Owen are freaking out. They're like, who hates us this much? This has got to be a prank, maybe from somebody at school. And then out of nowhere, it just stops for months. And they're finally like, yes, it's over. Whew. But then September 2021 hits and the text messages came roaring back. This time it's constant, morning, noon, night, during class, during practice. I mean, it doesn't let up. And now they're not just mean or nasty, they're disgusting as hell. Stuff like, you're not pretty enough, not skinny enough, Owen's just pity dating you, you're nothing. But here's where things start getting weird, because the stalker knew things, like super specific stuff. They would call Lauren by her nickname Lo, which was really off-putting because only her close friends and family would call her that. They'd mention what she was wearing to school, how her hair looked, how many points she would score at her basketball game. It's like someone's watching her every move. So at this point, Lauren and Owen are like, okay, this has to be somebody that we know. The stalker would text Lauren things that made her question her relationship with Owen. Like one message said that Owen was gonna meet up with the stalker at a hotel room and saying that he doesn't want you, just dump him. And to make it worse, they start targeting Owen too. He starts getting messages saying Lauren's ugly, she's a bad girlfriend, a waste of time, break up with her already. But Lauren and Owen still kept dating, and so the stalkers started trying to make them jealous. The messages they were getting turned extremely inappropriate. Like the stalker would send really inappropriate stuff, saying things like what she wanted to do to him in ways that I can't repeat on here unless I want to get my video taken down. But let's just say it wasn't PG, not even close. So by this point, the messages aren't just annoying, they're exhausting. They both just wanted to stop, to finally know who's behind it. So the stalker came up with a deal. They'd reveal who they were only if Owen admitted that he hated Lauren. And Owen, desperate for answers, he plays along and he types out, fine, I hate her, and sends it off. But the second he does, the stalker screenshots it, forwards it to Lauren, and texts, see, he really does hate you, you're nothing, he's telling the truth. But Lauren and Owen aren't stupid. They already knew this person was trying to play the both of them, so they just blocked the number. But then boom, another number pops up, so they just block it. And then once again, another number pops up. And they repeat this process over and over again. It was like the stalker had a drawer full of burner phones. But then it gets next level creepy. The stalker starts making fake social media accounts using real photos and names of Lauren's friends to keep the harassment going. It's messing with their heads so much. And just before Christmas, they decide they cannot handle it and break up. Mind you, they have been together for 2 years now. They're each other's first loves, so it was not easy at all. But you'd think, okay, this is what the stalker wanted, so they're done now. But no, right after they break up, the stalker messages them again. They tell Lauren, Merry Christmas, you're done, we win, you're ugly, and Owen wants a popular girl, not your or nothing. Like, do y'all understand how hurtful getting messages like that every single day is? So at this point, Lauren's had it. She's over it, and she starts texting the stalker, please just leave me alone. But of course, it doesn't work. So more than a year into this whole nightmare, she goes to the one person she trusted more than anyone, her mom, Kendra. Now, Kendra, she is super involved. She's Lauren's basketball coach, softball coach. She's always there running drills, cheering from the sidelines, total mom goals. So when Lauren spills everything about this online bully, Kendra's like, yeah, no, we're handling this right now. Ain't nobody gonna get away with doing this to my daughter. Clock it. So she marches straight to the principal and demands action. And to their credit, they actually take it pretty seriously. They launch a full investigation, pulling in a bunch of Lauren's friends, asking who's got beef, who's jealous, who likes Owen. They even went as far as checking surveillance cameras to see if anyone's acting weird, but they found nothing. And most schools would have stopped right there, like, okay, we tried our best, just ignore it and block the number. But not this one. They were like, yeah, no, we're going to find this creep no matter what. So they call in the big boys, the police. The sheriff pulls up, so it's no longer high school drama, it's a full-on criminal investigation. So all hands are on deck right now, including Kendra. This woman is not messing around. She hands over 50 pages of research, screenshots, text messages, everything and anything she could to help and find the stalker. But even with the cops involved, the stalker still does not stop. They just keep sending nastier texts, and like I said, they are so disgusting and vile, I can't say them on here. So the police decide, let's dig deeper. They go through thousands of text messages. They end up filing warrants for Instagram, Facebook, TikTok to release data from Lauren and Owen's phone, so that way they can eventually do a full digital sweep, which you think would scare the stalker off, right? Like, oh my god, the cops are digging through everything, I'm done. But no, in fact, the stalker actually gets cocky. They text Lauren saying, the cops said it's not me, they're not even on to me. Like, they're just straight up taunting her. But months go by and police end up hitting a wall, because whoever this was, they are hiding behind burner accounts and VPNs. So the case gets kicked up to the big boys, the FBI. They bring in their cyber experts. I mean, these are the guys who spend their days hunting down pro hackers. So they're pretty confident they can handle a couple of teenagers hiding behind a VPN, which, by the way, it's basically a software that makes it look like you're somewhere you're not. But the FBI, they blow right through that. I mean, come on, it's the FBI, criminal minds. If you know, you know. It's child's play for them. And after a little while, they were actually able to trace back everything to one IP address. So with that, they locked down the exact location being used to send all of these text messages. And after 2 whole years of psychological torture, nearly 350,000 messages, this stalker's identity is about to be revealed. And it turns out the device belonged to... Are you ready? Please hold on to your seat, because this is about to blow your mind. 3, 2, 1. It was Kendra, Lauren's own mom. The woman who birthed her. The woman who Lauren would cry on her lap whenever she would get sad because of these messages. The woman who was so involved in this investigation. I know, we need to let this sink in. I was honestly just as shocked, and I'm re-shocked, because what? So now that the FBI was able to figure out who was behind the messages, now it's time to get a warrant to confiscate every device in their house. Because sure, the messages are linked to Kendra, but it doesn't necessarily prove that she's the one sending them. So with a warrant in their hand, they show up to Kendra's house, and she's outside just taking the trash out very casually. And the cops are like, we need to talk. So the officers pull her inside and straight up tell her, we tracked all of those disgusting, life-ruining messages right back to you. And the look on her face kills me, because she knows she's cooked. But of course, she still tries to deny it, which only lasted like 10 seconds, but still, what are you doing? Come on. And while this officer is laying it all out on the table, there is another walking around the entire house searching for everything: phones, laptops, tablets, anything she could have been using to destroy her own kid's life. And this is the part where my blood just boiled. The officer tells her, we're gonna have to tell Lauren and your husband Sean. And Kendra, this woman, she goes, do we have to? Do we have to? Ma'am, you have been tortured for years, and your main concern is whether you have to admit it. Priority list is not there. So after a few minutes, they call Lauren over. She sits down and they tell her everything. And this poor girl, like, you can see it in her face. She is shocked, but she just shuts down. She doesn't react, but you can tell that she's shattered. She just doesn't know what to do with this information. And then Kendra, she has the audacity, the absolute nerve to stand up and hug her. She's rubbing her shoulder, playing with her daughter's hair like she's comforting her. That is manipulation 101. You hurt this person and then you swoop in and try to save them. It's disgusting. And then they tell Sean, and that's when even more of Kendra's secrets just start spilling out. Because everybody's wondering these same 2 questions. Why would she do this? And how the hell did she even have time? Well, it turns out she had the time because she was jobless. Everybody thought she was working, even Sean, even Lauren, but no. She had gotten fired like a year back and kept it a secret. So while she was sitting at her computer pretending to work, she was actually crafting thousands of fake messages to torment her daughter Lauren and boyfriend Owen. And after all of that, Kendra is finally arrested, put on trial, and could potentially go to jail for 35 years. And while in custody, she starts pouring out all of these excuses as to why she did what she did, telling investigators that she only did it to hopefully bring out the real stalker. Like, she thought by sending fake messages, she could somehow expose whoever was actually tormenting Lauren in the beginning. Which makes absolutely no sense, because you were sending messages to your daughter telling her to end herself. Then she says it just got out of hand, like she only meant to send a few, and then this went on for 2 years. There is no excuse to cover that. And then, this is the cherry on top, she asks the cop to keep it quiet. Apparently, she doesn't want the other parents to know. Can you imagine causing this much emotional trauma to multiple families, and your only worry is whether the other parents will gossip about you? That is truly despicable. But the real question everybody still has is why? It just makes no sense. Because this wasn't just some stranger in the dark this was her mom. And so prosecutors actually came up with a theory. Lauren and Kendra had always been like extremely close. Lauren was a total mama's girl. She would tell her everything about school, sports, friends, boys. For every problem, every little detail, she always went to her mom. But then Owen came along and suddenly Lauren isn't venting to mom anymore. She was venting to her boyfriend. She was spending her free time with him, not her. And prosecutors believe Kendra hated that. She wanted to be number one again. Maybe losing her job played into it. Maybe being fired bruised her ego and left her with too much time on her hands. But for whatever reason, she created this nightmare. Not to necessarily break Owen and Lauren up, but to create a problem so massive, so terrifying, that Lauren would have no other choice but to come running back to her mom. And in a sick way, it actually worked. The harassment consumed Lauren's life. Her grades were slipping, her friends cut her off, she was paranoid, exhausted, completely falling apart. And every time she felt like drowning, she turned straight to her mom. Kendra got to play the hero, the savior, the protector, when really the entire time she was the one pouring gasoline on the fire. But I'm sorry, I don't really buy this neat little theory prosecutor sold. That whole, oh, she just wanted her daughter to miss her again. Yeah, nah, miss me with that. Because when you actually look at the text messages, the motive feels so much darker. Kendra wasn't obsessed with being needed by Lauren. She was obsessed with Owen. Think about it for real. These text messages weren't just, oh, Lauren's a bad girlfriend, yada yada yada. They were gross, way over the line. Like telling Owen what she wanted to do with him and then showing up at his games that Lauren wasn't even at. And then she texts Owen saying, see, she doesn't care enough to show up for you. Meanwhile, she's in the bleachers watching him play. Tell me that's not obsession. And let's not forget, she is destroying her own daughter at the same time. Calling her ugly, saying that her body looks like a boy, telling her to unallow herself. You don't write that to your own kid unless something way deeper and darker is going on. Because if all you wanted was attention, you didn't need to drag her body into this. You didn't need to push her towards suicide, and you damn well didn't need to her boyfriend. But even with all of this, here is how everything played out in court. She was facing decades, like 35 years if it went to trial. But she takes a plea deal. They had thousands of pages of messages directly tied to her devices. No jury on earth could have ever bought her excuses. So she pleads guilty to 2 counts of charging a minor. And just like that, charges of using a computer to commit a crime, gone. Obstruction of justice, gone. Her max drops from 35 years to 10. And when she finally speaks in court, she's like, I'm sorry, I feel so much remorse. I never want to hurt anyone again. Oh, please. It honestly sounded like she was downplaying it, like she was minimizing what she did. Bro, you didn't just hurt your family. You torched your daughter's entire reality. You wrecked Owen, you wrecked his family, and you wrecked every single other person in that town who had to deal with the fallout. Like, who does that? So what does she actually get? 19 months to 5 years. And she only served like a year and a half. So by August 8th, 2024, she's released. That's it. That's the punishment. After nearly 2 years of torment, after sending thousands of messages, after telling her own child to she serves less time than it takes to get through high school. I think we can all agree that's insane.